I never imagined something so small could undo something so long. For years, I thought our problems would come from the usual places: arguments, distance, boredom. I was wrong. What ended us wasn't a piece of jewelry. It was the way I spoke when it mattered most. My name is Natalie. I'm 31, and until not long ago, I was convinced my partner, Lucas, would put up with just about anything for me. We had been together for 5 years, steady, familiar years that felt permanent simply because they had lasted so long. We weren't married, but everyone around us treated it like a formality. I did too. Lucas was the dependable type. He planned months ahead, kept spreadsheets for his finances, and never forgot a birthday or an appointment. He worked in network security, earned enough to be comfortable, and didn't believe in spending money just to impress people. I used to call him stable, and at the time, I meant it kindly. I was different. I loved labels, aesthetic cafes, luxury trips, and anything that photographed well. I told myself I appreciated quality, that I knew what I deserved. Lucas never really challenged that. If I wanted a fancy dinner, he'd suggest saving up for it. If I admired something expensive, he'd quietly look for a more reasonable version. I see it now, how often he tried to meet me halfway. Back then, all I noticed was how far short I thought he fell. The night everything changed was meant to be meaningful. Lucas asked me to dinner and insisted we leave our phones in the car. No scrolling, no interruptions. I should have realized that meant something, but instead I assumed he was finally ready to talk about the future, maybe moving in together or planning something big. The restaurant was tasteful and calm, the kind of place where conversations stayed low and intimate. Lucas seemed tense. He barely ate and kept twisting his napkin between his fingers. When dessert arrived, he reached into his jacket. My pulse jumped. I felt that familiar thrill, the one fueled by expectation rather than certainty. He set a small box on the table. Time slowed in a strange way. I noticed the candlelight reflecting off the glass, the muted clatter of dishes nearby, the way he cleared his throat before speaking. "Natalie," he said, "I know I'm not perfect, but I love you. I want a life with you." He opened the box. The ring was elegant in a quiet way. White gold, a modest diamond, nothing flashy. Clean lines. Classic. And instead of feeling overwhelmed with emotion, my mind went somewhere else entirely. I thought about how it would look next to my friends' rings. I wondered how much it cost. I felt a sharp, sinking disappointment. I didn't hide it well. "That's it," I said. His smile faltered. "What?" I lifted the box, turning it slightly. "It's really small. How much did you spend?" He paused. "Around 1,500. I laughed before I could stop myself. "Lucas, come on. That's cheap. That's honestly embarrassing." The word hung there, heavy and unforgiving. I slid the box back toward him. "You should return it. I'm not wearing something like this. People will think you don't value me." He stared at the ring, then at me. There was no anger in his face, just a quiet hurt that settled in slowly, like something breaking without noise. "I worked hard for that," he said at last. His voice was controlled, but tight. "I chose it because I thought you'd appreciate something timeless." "Then you misjudged," I replied. "If you're going to propose, at least do it right." I expected him to argue. He usually did, gently, carefully, always trying to smooth things over. Instead, he closed the box, tucked it back into his pocket, and asked the waiter for the check. The rest of the evening passed in a haze of forced politeness and silence. I told myself he was just embarrassed and would come around. I even convinced myself that I was doing him a favor by being honest. Honesty mattered, didn't it? On the drive back, I tried to soften things. I told him I hadn't meant to hurt him, that wanting something nicer wasn't unreasonable. He kept his eyes on the road. "It's not about the ring," he said quietly. "Then what is it about?" I snapped. He didn't answer. When we reached my place, he didn't come inside. He handed me my bag and said he'd talk to me later. I rolled my eyes, annoyed at what I saw as unnecessary drama. In my head, this was temporary. We'd talk. He'd exchange the ring. Life would continue as planned. But later never came. A day passed. Then another. My text stayed unread. His social media was unchanged, no cryptic posts, no visible emotion. That's when fear crept in, subtle but persistent. Not guilt. Not anger. Fear that maybe I had crossed a line I couldn't step back over. On the third day, my phone buzzed. I returned a ring. The message said, "We need to talk." My chest tightened. Not because of the ring itself, but because of how final the words felt. There was no apology, no defensiveness, no warmth, just distance. And for the first time since that dinner, I understood that telling him to take it back hadn't been a comment about jewelry at all. It had been a statement about how little I valued what he was offering, and maybe, in the end, about how little I valued him.